The NBA in 2024 has changed very drastically. They have the in-game tournament, the new all-star game format, and so much more. Today, I want to talk about how this affects the fans, and I want to make some comparisons to something that this channel also covers, which is NBA 2K. So, first things first, I want to talk a little story about myself and help you guys understand that I'm a huge basketball fan. Since the late 80s, early 90s, I fell in love with basketball and it was amazing. Michael Jordan's era. And then right after, you went into the Shaq and Kobe, Spurs, and all of the dynasties that came, which was incredible to watch. I'm a Knicks fan, so yes, we never won, but I'm from New York, so we love basketball. With that in mind, we just love basketball. And that's the point of today's conversation is basketball. Now, there's this big conversation piece about how the three-pointer has killed the NBA, and that's something that people kind of have trending right now. And while I have also been on that bandwagon of not liking the fact that the NBA focuses solely on the three, and it's the main thing in the NBA, as we watch the highlights of the finals of the Cup, I can say that it was Stephon Curry who humbled me not so long ago, made me realize he's one of the greatest players I ever seen and probably will ever see. And while his game is focused on just chucking them up, it actually took a lot of skill to get that good to do that. Not many players can follow his lead the way he is, but the whole NBA format now is to chase down threes. As you see, Damian Lillard with one of the best shots of the finals and of this year, that step back that he just took was special. And the Bucks did win this, spoiler alert. And I have to say, for a team that's been looked at up and down, you got to love having these superstars together and putting a run together to win this. Will they be able to make that run in the playoffs? They've got to find out if their bench is possible. They were easily winning one game against another team with the star power that they have. On the other hand, you're watching the OKC, a young, hungry, extremely talented team. And to me, there will be the future if the OKC tend to keep them together. Of course, as you know, trades happen and things might not be what we see now with them. But one thing I do love is that the NBA does have talent and it's extraordinary, regardless if you're one of these, the three killed the NBA or not. And regardless if you can appreciate the in-game tournament, which had very low numbers when it broadcast. They even sold the tickets for 3 times the lower price. And so that just tells you, the NBA is trying to figure out this new format and new systems that they're creating. They had to shake it up though, and rightfully so, because we all evolved. And in a world where we live in the short form content or quick adrenaline, dopamine rushes, we definitely needed some type of change. And this in-game tournament has been interesting in some regard, regardless if you can appreciate it or not. And I personally appreciate it because I have been watching for 30 years. So to be honest with you guys, it is something fun to kind of see in December/November, thinking about a little mini championship run just to see what team is hot. This actually motivated a lot of players and a lot of teams to kind of get it together and fight. And I actually love that part of it because one of your teams who might not make the NBA finals gets a chance to compete for this one. And I thought that is spectacular to give you some type of, not charity, but some type of easy road to some type of success. It gives your team a confidence if they're on the lower brackets. With that in mind, the bigger conversation is the NBA dying? And not just for the threes, but the viewership and the new formats that people don't agree with when it comes to the All-Star, having multiple teams facing against each other. Something that is very hard to defend, to be honest with you, but I personally love it because it's going to tell us the truth. Maybe we did need that change because the All-Star game did get a little stagnant. If we're being honest, it turned into just a casual showcase and not even a game. And in the old days, people played with more tenacity. They really wanted to win, whether it was East versus West or just putting on for your city. Personally, I want the jerseys to come back where players would play with their home jersey. And it could be a modified version. But of course, the NBA wants to sell their jerseys. So we don't know if that'll ever happen because they want to sell new All-Star jerseys. But if they sell one where it's mixed in with the home team, that's a good representation for players to get motivated and say, hey, I'm repping my team, I'm repping my country also. But, you know, it's just a thought. But the principle here is that these new formats are super interesting to see where the NBA goes. Things like hand checking was just something that they took out of the game a while ago, has been really deep in discussion now. And I personally am all for it. And strictly to bring back hand checking to me is a plus. But again, you don't have to agree with any of my points or some of the stuff that I'm pointing out. I'm not trying to make a point, to be honest with you, but I want to kind of share perspective. And one of the biggest things, if you're an older and you've been watching the NBA, is in the old days, you would have to drive. And it was the highest percentage shot. And it's the best way to get a free throw as well. So that was the main way to play. Either you penetrate or you post up and then you kick it out. If last second you'll shoot the three. Now it's the opposite. Look for a three and penetrate if there's nothing else. And whether it's good or bad, that's a conversation that we're going to have in a second here, just to kind of discuss what is or what isn't. As you see, the Bucks win. They do an amazing job. Now I'm going to bring it into the NBA 2K world, show you guys some highlights while I discuss what I feel is happening. Much like I just said, in the old days, people would drive and that was the highest percentage shot and that was what was taught. The truth is, people say that's the best era and that's the best time. Whether you agree or disagree, whatever you might feel, the truth is that today's game is amazing. And there'll be somebody in about 30 years that say 2024 was the golden era and the best players played. Players like KD, Curry, LeBron James, and so much more. There's a long list of top tier all-timers that we might take for granted today that will end up being a golden era for some other up and coming young kids that are watching the game now. And so even though we have our biasness in NBA 2K, we also have our biasness. And to kind of put it forward here on my topic is, yes, NBA 2K has the same problem. People will say 2016, aka NBA 2K16 was the greatest, or maybe they'll say like 18 or whichever year people might feel. It's older ones usually, and the newer ones aren't as good, just like they talk about the NBA. Now, again, you can agree to disagree on this conversation. I'm not trying to put nobody on blast about it, but it is something to understand that, yes, there's just false narratives about things, whether it's movies or more. There's always been this false narrative. And so I am not okay with that. And I'm not okay to be one to advocate for this type of thinking. As somebody who watches the NBA and plays the video game version, NBA 2K, I can appreciate the fact that there's a generation right now enjoying what they have in front of them, and that they don't care about your ancient relic, movies or games or music, and they enjoy what they have now. The question of quality is about taste and preference. And I have been enjoying the NBA. There's some solid players, some amazing stars out there, and new ones that are coming out right now and taking over the NBA that I think is necessary. And so I'm excited for the future. I challenge you to be excited as well, whether you're an NBA fan or an NBA 2K fan. There's no wrong answers here about what you feel. But I did want to point that out and give you just a little perspective on it. Hope that you can share the same view. Now, back into the NBA, where I want to talk about what is or what isn't happening. And this is where I'll close this conversation and leave it into the comments. For me, the NBA is phenomenal. You have golden era that I think when I get older, I'll say, man, those kids were great. Giannis staying home in the Bucks right now and not getting traded or anything and trying to win another chip, which he already proved he was a superstar and a legend for what he did on his own without having to team up with some superstar team to get a chip or anything. And so to me, his legacy is stronger than many other guys who all just team up together. But that's my taste. Just like I said with the NBA preference, I love a more physical game. That doesn't mean that today's soft basketball is not good basketball. Less injuries possibly, maybe, but still amazing basketball in its own right. So the question is, what era are you stuck on? What type of basketball are you stuck on? And you appreciate what is now while still loving what you've adored before? That is the question. And that's the peace that you need to find within yourself. I ask you to share your thoughts and opinions in the comments. Have respect for everybody else's. Let's get into this topic because it's humbling to know what I loved might not be around ever again. And I appreciate it, but I also can appreciate today's game. All right, y'all. Have a good holiday, and I'll see y'all on the next one.